Welcome into City of Angels, Conversations That Heal LA, a show where we talk all things spirituality, metaphysics, and personal growth. I'm Stefan Lovegrove.
And I am Suzanne Quast, and today I'm super excited. We're gonna be talking about how to fall madly in love with your body and how to become a sexy, badass bitch. I just can't say it enough. Right?
Yeah. She's been saying it all morning, you guys,
literally.
for real.
Our guest today is COURTNEY TILLIA. She has coined this phrase. She is a renowned lifestyle coach who works with women who are ready to feel confident and abundant and desired. Me? I'm ready. But you said before the show started that you were getting a little bit of backlash from sexy ass bitch.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people don't like to be called a bitch, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but if you are a sexy, badass bitch, I feel amazing, and you can coin a word into whatever you want it to be. Yeah. So if I feel good being a sexy, badass bitch, and I've created that word to be something as an amazing thing, not something derogatory.
Well, actually, in the book "Why Men Love Bitches," the term is an acronym for babes in total control of herself.
Yes.
And so I think it's amazing, actually.
Well, and it shows how powerful the language is. We were researching for this show, and Suzanne calls me and says, "Sexy badass bitch." I love that. I can't wait to ask her about that.
Yes.
So the language is powerful. Now,
it is powerful.
We know you started out in the fitness space and have really made a transition, which we're going to talk about today because I think there's so many lessons in that for people. But let's start with the fitness space.
Sure.
So many women out there not happy with their body, want a different body, and that was the space you started in. Talk to us about the beginning of your journey there.
Sure. I was a school teacher when I first started. I had just had 2 boys back to back, and I just felt so uncomfortable in my body, and I didn't realize the impact it was having on every area of my life, from being a mom to a wife to how it was even impacting me as a teacher, from getting dressed each morning to feeling uncomfortable in my clothes, uncomfortable in front of the classroom, and how that was impacting my relationships, my friendships, and wanting to go out like with friends but not feeling good in what I had on. And then I was like, that's enough. I've had enough of this, and I deserve to feel good. And everybody's life that I impact deserve for me to feel good. Amen. And that's when I started to really pick up fitness. And I realized at that moment how much me feeling good made everybody else around me feel good. And I was able to be that for my kids and be that confident woman that they get to see and grow up with.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things, that I love about you is your philosophy that in order to have a healthy, sexy body, it starts with a healthy mind. Yes. And I couldn't agree more. Is that sort of then what also helped you transition and working with all these women in fitness? You're like, wow, there's something else there that might be limiting them from actually achieving their body goals. Yeah. Or to feel good once they reach those goals. And is that why you became... Yeah.
So I started into fitness, and I was like, I'm doing nutrition and I'm doing fitness, but I really felt like there was a component that was completely missing, and that was the mindset. And I feel like a lot of times in the fitness industry right now, we're so focused on, we have our nutrition and we can go to the gym, but we're missing the emotional and mental side of it. And that's really what is keeping people stuck in the body that they're in, and keeps them sabotaging themselves, because there's something subconscious that is keeping them from really getting to that next level and to really get to the body that they want. And that's when I realized that there's a whole nother component over here that we're not discussing that needs to be brought in as a complete picture.
I am fascinated by this because this is a city where people care about their bodies a lot. I think that's no secret to anyone.
Yep.
And many people need to, like if they're on camera or whatever work they do in industry that they're in. But this is a city where everybody's going after the body and they're eating crazy things. They're doing all sorts of diets and juice cleanses and 3 fitness classes a day. And some people still can't get the body they want. And I've heard you say, and I've seen you say, there may be a deeper reason why you're blocking yourself from getting this body. I think that's mind-blowing for some of our viewers today. And I would love for you to speak more to that.
Yeah, and I've talked to my clients about this all the time. You can be on the perfect nutrition plan. You can be going to the gym regularly. But if you feel that that ideal body is going to be unsafe, If you feel that you are unworthy of that body, you're gonna keep sabotaging yourself and preventing yourself from getting there. And I talk to people all the time because belly fat is the big thing that we all wanna get rid of. We all want those abs, we want that flat stomach. And if you have this wall of belly fat here that you just can't seem to get rid of, to me, it's like a wall protecting your vulnerability. If you struggle with being vulnerable with people and with a relationship, it's like a great wall that's protecting everything that is so near and dear to your heart, your vital organs. Everything is there. So to really get rid of that belly fat, we really have to address, are you afraid of being vulnerable? Who
Wow.
are you afraid of being? Because that is there to protect you until we can clear that stuff.
So is that some of the work that you do with your
Yes.
clients then?
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of the puzzle that people are forgetting about.
I also found on your website that I thought was super interesting is that you have people apply. And I was like, wow, I've worked out with a lot of trainers, I've worked with life coaches, and they've never had the application process. But I thought it was kind of genius because it's not like this long, drawn out process. It's these questions that get to the meat of what have you been doing, what are your goals, and basically how serious are you? How did that come about?
Well, I want people who are ready to make the plunge. And I want people to know that this is not just a nutrition plan. This isn't just a training program that I'm going to give you. This is a complete package, and you have to be ready to do the work. Because it's not just we're going to go to the gym every day and we're going to eat super good. It's that we're going to dive deep into, what is it that's keeping you stuck? Why are you emotionally eating? What is triggering you into, sabotaging yourself and losing motivation? Because those are the things that we want to get into. So I do have an application process so that I can make sure that I'm getting people who are at that point and that they're ready to actually dive into and make that change.
I want to bring up the emotional eating thing because as soon as you
Yeah,
said that, I thought I always joke with people, somehow Domino's stays in business in this city. So we see you all getting the pressed juice 1.5 at lunchtime, but somebody's eating this. So for people who are emotionally eating or any kind of destructive behavior that they feel like is not in their best interest, but yet they persist in doing it, what would you say to them? What are common reasons people do that? What would you say to somebody in that position?
And then to piggyback on that, don't you think that food is one of the most overused coping mechanism drugs out there?
Well, there's a couple of things. We develop codependent relationships with food, and we develop these relationships that are, obviously we need it to survive, but we grow up that food is a social thing. It's at all our parties, it's at all our holidays. We love grandma's special treats that she makes, and so we justify we have those things. And of course you should. We're not going to cut those things out. But the point is that that you can still have those things, and that with emotional eating, what happens is that that a lot of times what I see is that parents teach their kids at a young age that we're not going to feel emotions today. We had this big family fight, but we are going to suppress, and we are going to go to Dairy Queen instead. We're going to have Domino's. And so at a young age, we learn that food is our coping tool, and that it's easier to go into the pantry and get something to eat rather than to feel the emotions that come up. And our brain triggers that, like, it's unsafe for me to feel these things, and it feels better if I just kind of push them away. And so we get into that place of that it's become a habitual habit, that it's something that we know, it's something that's familiar, it's something that we can go to. And so that's one of the most common reasons that I see. It's a pattern that started at such a young age, and it's so familiar at this point.
One of our guests had a question that's what do you
Our
do?
viewers.
One of our viewers.
Thank you, viewers.
Thank
One of our
you.
viewers had a
Yes,
question.
Yes, one of our viewers had a question is, what do you do if you're struggling with body dysmorphia or an eating disorder? What is sort of the first step to do or to take?
What I find with body dysmorphia is it comes from a place of not feeling enough to start. And so I really love to work on people to feel enough, whether you have body dysmorphia or you don't. A lot of us struggle with feeling enough and feeling worthy. And that's where I like to target to start, is just like feeling good at where you're at and loving your body at where you're at. And also with body dysmorphia, usually it comes from a place of losing control of other areas of your life.
That's so interesting.
And so a lot of times, if you've been a child and you have no control over everything else in your environment, what is the one thing you do have control over? Your body and your food. And so it's an area that they feel like they can control. And so looking at what is it that I am like afraid of losing and afraid of getting out of control, and really targeting in on those emotions of it to work on like feeling enough and to like, it's okay for me to relax and to work through these things.
Well, and this is why you're a lifestyle coach, because I'm sitting here thinking this is real. It is a fitness conversation, but
Right.
it isn't. Like, it's
Yeah.
also much deeper stuff. Along the lines of that, I want to talk about confidence, because I feel like so many women, especially if they have a family, they're a wife, they're a mother, there's this societal idea of like, you're gonna care about being a sexy badass bitch. Like, I can feel some women watching this being like, maybe if I was single and in my 20s, but I'm in my 40s
think
and
that's
I
a great
have
point.
kids and a marriage and I'm middle aged and this, she's talking to me about being a sexy badass bitch. Like, that feels far away from me.
Right.
What would you say to women about confidence not being like a selfish thing for them to step into in this way?
Yeah, so when I became a mom, I felt that pressure from society of like, it's time for you to put your mom jeans on and it is time for you to be a mom. That is your job, that is your role. And why I agree that is my job and that's what I want it to be, it doesn't mean that I have to get rid of feeling sexy and feeling confident and feeling good in my body. That is such a good role model for our kids, is to
Yes.
see a woman that still feels amazing in her body. And that it's safe for you to feel those things, even if you are a mom, even if you are a wife. And that, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question? I'm totally forgetting.
Well, just this idea of, you said, for me to feel good
Yeah.
is good for the people in my life. That really hit me, because I think a lot of people feel like if I step into my power, so many of our viewers have so many questions about owning their power
Right.
in various ways. People feel like if I step into my power, that's going to be perceived as selfish, or it's going to be too much.
Egotistical.
Right.
Sure. And it can be that way as a mom, is that like, oh, you're putting all this you first. But the truth is that I can't serve my kids, I can't serve my family the best that I can if I'm not filling myself up first. If I'm not making me a priority, my kids are getting a half version of their mom. And they're not getting to see the mom that's filled up, that's joyous, that's loving life, that's confident, that feels amazing. They're getting a mom that's run down, that's putting herself last, that's making sure everybody else is taken care of first before herself. And for me, I want my kids to see somebody who's filled up, because I don't want them to sacrifice themselves when they get older. And I'm going to be that example now.
God, that's beautiful. And you also say that it's safe for you to feel sexy. It is safe for you to trust your intuition and to be in your feminine energy, and that safety sets you free. Yeah. Expand upon that, because when I read that, I was stalking you on Facebook, clearly, and I think I did pretty good with the quote.
Yeah, you're doing really good.
But that really was profound to me, and I was like, yes, it is safe for me to be those things, especially as a mom. I don't have to lose my identity.
Right. And safety is a huge thing for women. It's our number one desired thing to feel, is to feel safe.
Yeah.
And especially now with all the Me Too movement, we see a lot of women who don't feel safe and don't feel safe to have this body. And that we see a lot of sabotage come up because they are worried about feeling safe. Are men going to approach me and overcross this boundary that I have? And so if I can feel safe and I can trust my intuition, then I can go forward with getting to this ideal body, that it's safe for me to have it. And so that's where I see a lot of sabotage come from, is that they don't feel safe or they're worried about people crossing that boundary. In fact, I had a client who was doing so well, making such great progress, and was at Walgreens, and a man just looked at her, didn't say anything, just made eye contact with her. And she immediately contacted me and said, I feel like I'm going to sabotage myself. I am going to like go downhill and eat because I don't want him to look at me. And so we see a lot of that even just the eye contact, them looking at him, is a fear of safety. So really putting it in yourself that I intuitively know that I am safe to be here, and I'm safe to have this body.
How do you help clients to get there? Because I feel like I hear you and I want to believe that, but I'm somebody that's honestly suffered with body dysmorphia and all these things. And I hear that, and I've worked really hard on myself to be in a much better mindset. But how do you approach this with your clients and teach them that?
With safety?
Yeah.
Yeah, so safety is a hard one because, like I said, it is something that we see so culturally right now, and something that we struggle with at such a young age. We see young girls that are already starting to kind of go down that path. And for me, it's really getting in touch with that intuition. Your intuition's never going to lead you down a path of somewhere that's unsafe. And immediately when you meet somebody, your intuition's gonna know right from wrong. So for me, I really like to get my clients into that feminine space of really trusting themselves, because anytime that I have personally gone down a path of maybe not trusting my intuition is when something has happened, but you immediately get that gut instinct when you don't feel safe. And so listening to that.
And I think people are out of touch with themselves to the point where they don't feel like they can trust themselves, which is a scary place to be. You know, if you forget trusting anyone else out there, if you can't trust yourself to know what's right for you, to make the right decision for yourself. And speaking of this, since we're talking about can you trust yourself with the people you meet, we did get a viewer question from Stephanie, and thank you for this question, Stephanie, who wants to know, what do I do, or what advice do you have if I want to attract a healthy relationship? Obviously, those of you who watched episode 1, we met Nick, who is your husband. But I really do feel like you have a very happy, healthy relationship where you didn't give up any of who you are. And you're very much in your power, sexy, badass bitch in the relationship. So what would you say to all the people watching who want to attract a healthy relationship where they can very much feel safe and be in their power while they're in it?
So this goes back into that safety mechanism, that intuition. You know immediately when you go on a date with somebody in the first couple seconds whether it's a good fit or not, whether it's somebody you even want to go forward with. It's that a lot of times our brain will try and justify why we should continue to go forward with the date or meeting them or talking to them, or like, okay, maybe a second date, maybe I missed something, or like I want a good reason as to why, versus listening to that intuition and really leaning back on that femininity, leaning back into that vulnerability and that freedom that is your sexy badass, because that's what's going to really guide you into the relationship that you desire and deserve. Is that I remember I used to be super masculine, and it was always one of the boys. But when I released that and realized that I could be me and be feminine and unique and be safe, that's when I attracted my relationship.
I love it. Yes, be in your femininity and own it.
Yeah.
And I do think you're right. That also creates independence.
Yes.
But like then the boundaries of a healthy relationship, because
Yes.
what you're allowing into your space, you're going to be more, choosy or specific about.
Yes. And don't let go of, like, obviously there's rules and we create rules at a young age that can sometimes hurt us, but also be open to how it shows up in your life, because a lot of times we can close down ways that people come into our lives versus how we think it should, how they should.
I'm still thinking about this intuition thing because I have had so many people say, give it a second date, just try, you didn't, it didn't start well, proceed. And I'm sitting here thinking, I honestly have never had a good second date with somebody that from the beginning my intuition was off, but I came up with some reason of like, just in case, maybe I should proceed a little longer. I feel like I don't know. What do you think, Suzanne?
Well, I also have a friend, and she met her husband, and they are madly in love now, but they hated each other when they first met each other. Literally, like they did not get along at all. And now they're happily married. So like a little bit of time passed from their initial meeting, and then they like met again, and then they realized, oh, maybe that was a spark. I don't know, misguided or, masked and not liking the other person.
Maybe
but
they weren't in a good place at that time in their life that didn't allow them to have that like spark and connection. But yeah, your intuition will always kind of give you a nudge. It's never wrong.
Right.
In the
Well, and
direction you
also
wanna go.
they were brought back together by some pool,
That's
which
true.
is different than I related to what you said about trying to justify. Whenever you're trying to justify something to yourself, it's like you already know it's off. That's why you're
Well,
justifying.
I
it.
knew, like with my boyfriend, I knew that this was something from the
Yes.
moment I met him.
Yes.
I was like, this feels different. We had a fun banter. It just was a connection that, was different than the other people I had met. So I completely agree
Yes.
that.
And same thing with my husband. I remember to the second of when I met him and the room, everything about that moment, because you just feel something different.
Yeah.
And that is an intuitive yes.
Okay, we're going to do our fun rapid
fire.
Okay, what song is on your playlist right now?
Oh my goodness. Whitney Houston is like
I love
rolling.
Whitney! I want to dance with somebody.
She is that confident energy for sure. Like if I want to feel
Yeah.
fierce, I listen to Dance with Somebody or like even the slow ballad.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah.
Courtney knows this. We have lip synced to
We've lip-synced
I
to
Have
Whitney.
Nothing by Whitney Houston. Best book you've read recently?
It's called Depart. I think it's called Departed. It's really about owning your femininity, and it really explains God, like the Bible's version of why we are the way that we are and why we really struggle with owning our beauty. And I love that because it answers all the questions that we were like pondering deep inside.
Oh, I'll have to read that. What is your favorite podcast?
Maybe Lewis Howes. I'm hit and miss on podcasts.
Okay.
Favorite hangout spot in LA?
Well, I'm gonna have to go Disneyland.
Which is LA adjacent. It's an LA,
Okay.
I mean, it's Orange County.
Technically, yeah. LA-ish.
LA-ish.
What is the thing you're most proud of?
My family and how far we've come together, from working as school teachers to quitting our jobs to like really growing and discovering ourselves in the process.
And doing it together. That's beautiful.
All right, the last question. If you have 30 seconds to deliver one message to the world, what would your message be?
That you are enough. You are a badass as you are. God would not create you as anything less than that. And that to just really own that, who you are.
I love it. Fearlessly be yourself.
Yes.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're so excited, and we will see you with episode 3. We have a really great guest coming up.
And a great topic that I guarantee you, no matter who you are, this is relevant to your life. So we'll see you back here soon, episode 3.
Bye.